vocal cords, vision, and muscular reaction are affected. Bill doesn't heed these danger signs. And as he continues to drink, he becomes so befuddled he doesn't seem to care what happens. When the concentration of alcohol in his bloodstream reaches 0.4%, he loses consciousness.
You think that Bill Smith would know what would happen if he drank too much?
He probably thought that when he took his first drink, it would be the only one. But alcohol, as I have pointed out, causes one to throw caution to the wind. And remember, even when Bill regains consciousness and manages to stumble home, it'll be 8 hours or so until he's sober. And he'll undoubtedly have a hangover when he awakens in the morning. That is, he'll have a headache, a desire for great quantities of water, a bad taste in his mouth, and he'll probably want to be left alone until his nerves quiet down. And his wife and children will suffer because his temper will be short. And when he gets to the office, his boss will lose out too, because Bill Smith won't be able to work efficiently. And don't forget, drinking is expensive. The dollars Bill spent for his spree is a large portion of his weekly paycheck.
I suppose that a lot of people spend much more each week than Bill did, for something that just makes them feel badly in the long run.
Yes, the cost of drinking is great in more ways than one. There are about 55 million occasional drinkers in the United States today, and about 17 million regular drinkers. And listen to Dr. Andrew C. Ivy, who is vice president of the University of Illinois, in charge of the professional schools.
Conservatively, there are at least 4 million people in our country who have harmed themselves socially, economically, spiritually, and perhaps bodily by drinking alcoholic beverages.
With so many millions who do drink, there can't be many who don't.
No, but there are. Above the age of 15 years, there are at least 38 million total abstainers, or people who do not drink.
That's a lot.
And the number is growing, as the facts about alcohol are becoming more widely known. You can drink when you're a man if you want to. But before you decide, think carefully if it's worth the great price you'll have to pay.
You've got me sold, as Dad would say.
Well, here's another startling piece of information. The National Safety Council has published the appalling fact that from Pearl Harbor to VJ Day, there were 3/4 as many persons killed and injured by traffic accidents due to alcohol drinking as were killed, injured, and missing in our armed forces. 1949, there were approximately twice as many persons killed and injured by traffic accidents due to drunken driving as were killed and wounded annually on the average in World War II.
How many would that be?
Just about 250,000 persons.
It just doesn't make sense. May I ask you a question, Mr. Wilson?
Certainly.
Maybe it's a silly question, but is it just as bad to drink wine or beer as it is whiskey? Isn't whiskey a whole lot stronger and more dangerous?
Well, drink for drink, they're each about the same strength. I'll demonstrate what I mean with these bottles and test tubes. Now, the active agent, alcohol, in beer, wine, whiskey, and related beverages is identical. The common name for this beverage alcohol is grain alcohol. The chemist calls it ethyl alcohol. Now let's look at 3 different average-sized alcoholic drinks. Now here is a glass containing 12 ounces or 1 bottle of 4.5% beer. The test tube will show that the amount of ethyl alcohol contained in that 1 glass of beer is 0.54 ounces. Now here's a 3-ounce glass of port wine, which is 20% alcohol by volume. The amount of ethyl alcohol contained in that 1 3-ounce glass of wine is 0.60 ounces. Now this is a whiskey highball, an 8-ounce glass containing a mixture of soda water, sometimes ice, and 1 ounce of bonded whiskey. Now in this 1 ounce of bonded whiskey, there is 1/2 ounce of ethyl alcohol. Now let's look at the 3 test tubes containing the amount of ethyl alcohol found in these beverages. We quickly see that the amounts are about the same. except that there is a little more alcohol in the glass of wine and the glass of beer than in the whiskey highball made with 1 ounce of bonded whiskey. Now, it's true that the alcoholic content of beer, wine, and whiskey may vary slightly, but the amount of ethyl alcohol found in the average-sized drink of each of these beverages is about the same. And this is very important to remember. Many people who drink beer and wine think they're getting less alcohol per drink than in a whiskey highball. But keep in mind that drink for drink, they are each about of the same strength, and that 1 bottle of beer will introduce into the body as much ethyl alcohol as a whiskey highball made with 1 ounce of bonded whiskey.
I never thought of it that way. You certainly made it clear. And I'm sure our class would get just as much out of your lecture as the seniors.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. This is such an important thing that I want as many classes as possible to hear these facts. Oh, and speaking of facts and figures on drinking and alcoholism, here are a few more. Would you like to hear them?
Sure.
The average expense for each family using alcoholic beverages averages $500 per year. Now, some families spend a good deal more than others. People who frequent expensive bars can easily spend $1,000 or more a year. It has been estimated that alcoholism costs the nation's industry $1 billion each year.
That's 1,000 million, isn't it?
Yes, $1,000 million. Here's another startling figure. J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI, says that the annual cost of all kinds of crime in the United States is $15 billion. The smallest estimate of the cost of crime attributed to drinking has been 16%, or $2.4 billion.
A fellow just doesn't take time to think these things out.
You're certainly right, Jerry. I'd like you to hear what Dr. Ivy told me a few weeks ago. He was sitting right in that chair.
Every young person should know, first, that at present no human being can be regarded as immune to addiction to alcohol. We cannot predetermine who is susceptible and who is resistant to becoming an alcoholic. Alcohol addicts come from the educated and ignorant, the rich and the poor, the clergy and church members, as well as from among the criminal class. In the second place, young people should know that 1 out of 15 social drinkers reaches the stage where he is repeatedly in trouble because of alcohol. That is the risk, 1 in 15, the social drinker takes. In the third place, young people should know that the really dangerous driver is the one who has only had 2 or 3 drinks and still thinks he is in possession of his faculties, but whose driving judgment and skill have been decidedly impaired. In the fourth place, young people should know that the consumption of alcoholic beverages increases promiscuity, disease, divorce, vice, crime, poverty, and mortality from many diseases. Moreover, they should know why alcohol consumption does these things. That it does these things primarily because of its effect on the brain. In the fifth place, and finally, young people should know that the only cure known for alcoholism is total abstinence. Regarding abstinence, there is only one question to ask. What is the only known, true, and scientific way never to become a drunken driver or a victim of acute and chronic alcoholism? Here we have an absolute and unchallengeable answer. Young people should know and can easily understand that abstinence is the only known, easy, and scientific way, the only way that works for everyone to prevent acute and chronic alcoholism, and is at present the only known way to cure alcohol addiction.
Well, there you have the facts.
Dr. Ivy and you have certainly given us a lot to think about. Oh, it's getting late. We'd better go now. Thanks a lot, Mr. Wilson.
You're sure welcome.
I hope you'll be able to tell our entire class as you've told us.
Say, Jerry, here's some new stamps for your collection.
Thanks.
Well, so long, Jerry, Louise.
Goodbye.
Drop in anytime.
So long, Mr. Wilson.
I thank God that there are millions of youngsters who know how to think and act intelligently. We can be sure of our country's future when it rests in the hands of young people like Jerry and Louise. And you. Remember, the choice is yours.